Alright, what is up guys? Vivi back with another video. This time we're going to be doing another tutorial style video. This time we're going to be doing Flesh and Blood. And just so y'all see, I'm just on the Flesh and Blood TCG YouTube page. If you want to find this, you could just go up to the top search bar here, type this in, and you will find it. Okay? So that's that. This is going to be a video geared towards kind of just, you know, critiquing the Learn to Play tutorial video. Right, we're just going to talk about the game. Generally speaking, I'll probably be doing a lot of these videos on games I have no idea how to play, where we'll be learning together. You know, and these are Learn to Play, so even if you're a new player, if you have interest in Flesh and Blood, this will help you learn a lot about the game. But even if you're a older player of the game, or you know, a more veteran player of the game, I should say, more experienced, you'll still be able to add to this video, like in the comment section, by clarifying anything I might have any questions on. You know, like, you know, this video is not just for new players, but it's also not, you know, just because I know the game, it's not just for experienced players either. Hopefully this will kind of reach everybody's, you know, interest. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive into it, guys. I'm gonna play it, pause it, and we're gonna talk about it as we go. Let me turn off the music over here. Okay, there we go. So that way that's not distracting. And let's go ahead and make sure the volume's good, and let's go ahead and restart it, and here we go.
Welcome to Flesh and Blood Learn to Play. Flesh and Blood is a hero-centric, fantasy-themed trading card game.
Let me try to turn closed caption on.
Welcome to Flesh and Blood Learn to Play. Flesh and Blood is a hero-centric, fantasy-themed trading card game.
I don't think it's
working.
working.
There are many classic fantasy classes to choose from. Each with
Why
their
is it
own
in
unique
traditional?
style. We're going to learn to play as Ira,
Okay.
a vengeful ninja.
Okay, cool. It did work. All right, sorry about that, guys. Here we
Flesh
go.
and Blood is a hero-centric, fantasy-themed trading card game.
So it is a hero-centric, fantasy-themed trading card game. And I can hit C to just turn those off. Nice. Okay, so how do I say this? This is the future of TCGs. Not necessarily Flesh and Blood, but this idea of having the hero-centric playstyle, the leader-centric playstyle, right? Where like One Piece has the leader, Dragon Ball Super has a leader, Flesh and Blood has a leader. They just call it a hero. It's the same premise, though, right? It's the same idea of here is the guy that represents me. I am going to fight, you know, my playstyle is based around him or her, right? So, okay, let's go ahead and keep going. I love the ideas of heroes. Grand Archive is doing the same thing. Alpha Clash is doing the same thing. This seems to be the way to go. Okay, let's see what happens.
There are many classic fantasy classes.
I turned off the closed caption. It was annoying me, guys. Down there at the bottom, I was like, I don't like how it messes up how good the picture looks. So, okay, let me go back. Here we go.
That is a hero-centric, fantasy-themed trading card game. There are many classic fantasy classes to choose from.
So there are many classes to choose from. And think about that. Since there are many classes to choose from, and you'll also see the way they have this built out, there are also going to be many classes that we can have going forward, right? Whereas Magic the Gathering, if they were to try to make a new color in the game, like, you know, right now there's 5 colors in Magic the Gathering, right? Red, black, white, green, and blue. So if they were to add another color to that, that would disrupt everything. The back of every card has 5 colors on it, right? The card backing does. So how could you ever get around that? Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very, very hard to do at that point. Well, in a game like Flesh and Blood, you'll see there's actually a very interchangeable aspect of the game. And I don't want to get too much into it now, but they even have something that's like a living legend rule where once a hero, once a hero has accumulated enough victories at major tournaments, which they do calculate, or they how do you say it? They register, right? How many wins each character has at tournaments. And once you get to a certain number, well, now all of a sudden that character enters into what's called the living legend rule. I think that's what it's called, or someone correct me if I'm wrong, or tell me exactly, you know, if I mess that up. But it's a type of living legend rule where it's like, okay, you have reached 1,000 points of wins. You can no longer play that hero in Constructed. Now that might be a good thing for some people and a bad thing for some people. You know, it kind of depends on what you're into for games. Because I know some people like the more legacy formats, and then some people don't. Some people like more classic Constructed. But the idea is it allows the game to stay new, where it's like, okay, we don't have just one hero that's just dominating forever, right? Because that's what we're actually running into right now in One Piece TCG. For those who don't know about that, at the time of me recording, there's a certain deck, Whitebeard, which is just extremely dominant at the time. Well, in a game like Flesh and Blood, he would have already been retired, right? Quote unquote, like living legend. Okay, so let's keep going.
Each with their own unique playstyle.
Yeah, they'll have their own playstyle.
Play
okay, real quick, hang on, I gotta go back.
To choose from, each with their own unique playstyle.
Let me pause on the board. Okay, so check out this board, guys. So mainly just focus on the bottom half because the top half is your opponent. So the bottom half, this might seem overwhelming to players at first. It's really not very overwhelming. Okay, let's start on the far left. You see where it says head, chest, arms, and legs? Or head, chest, legs, and arms, however you want to read it. That is your equipment area. Your hero, so think about it like an RPG. My hero, whoever they are, is going to need a weapon to fight my opponent, right? And they're going to need a helmet, they're going to need a chest piece, arms, legs, like all kinds of different gear. That's what that is on the left. They're going to talk more about it in the video. There's a weapon slot, of course. Now go to the middle section. You got the hero in the dead center. Weapon on the left and right, where some people can have two weapons, some people can only have one because it depends if it's a one-handed or a two-handed weapon. Okay, and then we have down here at the very bottom where it says arsenal. We're going to talk about that in the video, or not we. They're going to talk about that in the video. I have seen this video, so you'll see that in the video. We'll talk about that when it comes up. And then on the far right is very basic. It's your graveyard at the top right. That's your trash. Your deck. And then down at the bottom is a banish zone. That's a little more technical. We don't have to talk about that in a video like this. But then to the left of the deck is the pitch zone. They're going to talk about that as well. And in the middle is the combat chain. That's where like all the actions are going to take place. That's in between you and your opponent. That's the ground you're fighting on kind of thought process. So here we go. Let's keep going.
Learn to play as Ira.
Okay, very cool. Ira, Crimson Haze. I love the borders on these ninja cards. That very traditional cloud style from the east. Awesome.
Vengeful Ninja.
Vengeful Ninja.
Start the game with your hero and weapon in play. The object.
Okay, so here they are. Here's your hero and your weapon in play. Edge of Autumn on the left there. Very cool looking sword. Once per turn action, pay 1. That's the resource symbol in this game. That red circle. That is a resource symbol. And then it attacks and then go again. Right. Ninja sword, that little arrow in the bottom left, that is physical damage. That's a physical attack of 1. Ira, Crimson Haze is our leader, our hero's name. And then she has an ability that says your second attack each turn gains +1 physical. That little blue symbol in the bottom left is your hero's intellect. That's how many cards they draw each turn. And then she's a hero ninja. That's her little type down there at the bottom in the middle. And then she has 20 life. Okay, that's what the green symbol is. Let's keep going.
The object of the game is to reduce the opposing hero's life points to 0.
Okay.
This is your hero's intellect, or hand size. You start the game with this many cards in your hand.
Yep.
And at the end of each of your turns, you draw cards until the number of cards in your hand is equal to your hero's intellect. It's usually a good idea to use all the cards in your hand each turn to maximize the benefit of this redraw.
Really good quality on this video so far, by the way. Did you notice, like, the way the cards are, they look very three-dimensional.
Cards in your hand each turn
like,
to maximize
that's just a really nice quality, the way they're changing angles on us. All right, let's talk about the arsenal.
Underneath your hero.
Let me read that. At end of turn, EOT, at end of turn, if your arsenal is empty, you may put 1 card from your hand face down. You can only play cards from arsenal. We're going to talk about what the difference in play in a little bit, I think. But so here's the idea here. This game is very different in the sense of when you draw. So you see the character, the hero's blue circle right here and the number next to it, that 4. Excuse me, that 4 represents your hand size. In most card games, you draw a card at the beginning of your turn. In this game, it's actually very different. You draw cards at the end of your turn for like the draw card effect. And this character, this hero, Ira, and all heroes currently at the time you're recording this, all heroes draw up to 4 cards, like at the end of their turn. They draw 4 cards at the end of their turn. Well, that is a set number, so you'll never draw 5, you'll never draw 6, you'll never amass a hand size. Like, so say you didn't play anything for some reason, you have 4 cards in hand, At the end of your turn, you won't draw 4 more cards. You have your 4 cards. Okay, so because of that, you kind of are. It influences you to want to play out your entire hand, right? Which is important for the combat process and the game flow. But I just want to mention this. It is a little different to get used to not being able to go up in hand size and generate advantage that way. And the way that they deal with that is the arsenal. At the end of your turn, you can put 1 card from your hand face down. Your opponent doesn't know what it is, right? You put it face down in the arsenal, and then you draw up to 4 again. So you see how you can create a small amount of card advantage through the arsenal. Now, there are some stipulations on that. You see where it says you can only play cards from arsenal? We're going to talk about that in a second, I think. Let's keep going.
Hero Zone is your arsenal, where you can store a card for future use. At the end of your turn, before you draw cards, if you have any cards left in your hand and your arsenal is empty, you may put 1 card from your hand face down into your arsenal.
I love those card backs. Very, very clean. I still think I might have to do. I might have to rate card backings, and but Flesh and Blood would be very high on my list. Grand Archive though, it's gonna be hard to beat that one. But anyway, let's keep going.
You may only play cards from your arsenal. We will revisit what this means shortly.
Okay, so they're gonna revisit that shortly.
To play cards, you must work within 2 constraints. You can play 1 action per turn unless that action has go again.
So you see the idea here. The idea here is, this TCG is kind of geared more around almost like a fighter game, like an actual, like a Marvel vs. Capcom style, but 1 versus 1 fighter game. Excuse me. I do think they have some multiplayer aspect as well, but I don't typically get into that kind of stuff. But the 1 versus 1 part of it, you need to see it as like, okay, you get to do an attack, and now they get to do an attack, and there are counters in between. But that's kind of the game flow that you're gonna see here. So with that 1 action per turn, remember you have 4 cards in your hand. Okay, so you're gonna use those 4 cards to either generate more actions per turn, so you can do more than 1 action, or you're gonna do 1 big action. You'll see how it pans out.
Ninjas are very agile, showcased by many cards with go again.
That's right.
In the Ira deck, you will find.
So real quick, so like he just said, ninjas are very agile, right? So they have a lot of go again cards. Go again means you get to, so whatever, you use your 1 action point on a card. Well, if it says go again, now you get to do another action, right? You see how it can chain together. And if you're really big on ninjas, well, this would be a cool deck for you to play because it has that theme, right? If you like the idea of like being a ninja and being very agile and attacking, well, that's the theme they're going for here. It's very specific and unique to that, right? Okay.
Find a number of cards that.
Not to say they're the only cards that have go again. Just to make sure I'm clear on that. Okay, and if I'm missing anything, you guys be sure to tell me in the comment section below. All right, let me go back.
By many cards with go again. In the Ira deck, you will find a number of cards that naturally have go again, and a number of cards that conditionally gain go again. There are also cards that do not have go again. When you play an action that does not have go again, it will end your turn after it resolves.
So you heard that, right? So you can chain together cards that have go again into another card that's go again. But as soon as the card does not have go again, your turn is over. Like you're not getting out of that one unless you can instant speed give it go again, some type of special action to give it go again.
Cards have a resource cost that must be paid.
Okay.
Found in the top right corner.
So there you go in the top right corner. See it? 0 on the head jab card, 1 on Bittering Thorns, 2 on Flying Kick.
Of cards in your deck, or the text box of cards within an.
And there's that resource cost we talked about earlier. Once per turn action, pay 1, attack. Okay.
Activated ability. To gain resource points, you can pitch 1 or more cards from your hand when there is a cost to.
So that is a word he said there that you need to understand what it means. He said pitch. So that's not playing a card. Remember how we were talking about Arsenal? Pitching a card is not playing a card. So you can't store a card in your arsenal and then pitch it later for resources. I actually wish you could do that, but that is not how that works, unfortunately. So let me back up. So let's hear him again.
To gain resource points, you can pitch 1 or more cards from your hand when there is a cost to pay. A card's pitch value is shown by the number of socketed resource symbols.
So you see that you pitch a card. So say we pitch the head jab here. See how it has 3 little circles in the top left corner? Well, that will be good for 3 resources. Okay. Well, with 3 resources, we can play Bittering Thorns for 1 and play Flying Kick for 2. That's 3, right? You see how that works, okay?
Each card in your deck also has a pitch value color strip. Blue cards pitch for 3 resource points. Yellow cards pitch for 2, and red cards pitch for 1.
So you see, he's just saying there's a color code to it as well. So blue cards are the 3 circles in the top left. Yellow cards are the 2 circles in the top left. Red cards are the 1 circle in the top left. And when I say blue cards, yellow cards, red cards, I'm talking about that little strip they're highlighting for each one of these at the very, very top.
Typically, you will be looking to pitch your blue cards to pay for your higher impact yellow and red cards.
Right. I think he's going to mention it too. In this game, you see how there's 3 different cards, right? At the very top, that little strip, blue, yellow, and red. Well, in this game, you can only have 3. You have a 60 card deck in this game, okay? And you can only have 3 of the same card in it, in your deck. But guess what? For certain cards, like this head jab card he's showing, there is a head jab that is a blue top, a head jab that has a yellow at the top, and a head jab that has a red at the top. So you can have, excuse me, up to 9 head jabs in one deck. 3 blues, 3 yellows, 3 reds, all head jab. And the difference is the resource cost. Typically speaking, the higher the resources you can get from, like this blue card, do you see in the bottom left where that little arrow is, where it says 1? Let me try to, if you can see my mouse, it's right here. Well, the yellow card, excuse me, guys, my allergies are really bad. The yellow version of the card will have a 2 for the attack down there, and the red card will have a 3. So the less resources the card can generate, the more attack it can generate. And inversely, or vice versa, however you'd say that, the more attack it can generate, the less resources it can generate from hand by pitching it. So let's keep going. Sorry, guys.
To pitch a card, place it face up into your pitch zone from your hand. At end of turn, before you draw cards, all cards in your pitch zone are put on the bottom of your deck in the order of your choice.
There you go. So you don't mill yourself out, right? That way you're not milling too hard. Whenever you pitch a card for resources, it doesn't get trashed. It goes to the bottom of your library. Okay.
Flesh and blood. You nearly always go through your deck at least 1 time.
He said that you are going to go through your deck about 1 time a game.
So be mindful that you will be working with the cards you pitch later in the game.
Yep. And there's shuffle effects too, so.
Now you know how to play cards. So let's look at combat. Combat is made up of 1 or more chain links. A chain link has 4 steps. The attacking hero plays an attack.
Okay.
The defending hero can defend with any number of cards from their hand.
So here's like that counter I was talking about, where they're going to come in with a basically a type of block. Excuse me. So they're gonna block this. So let me pause.
There is no
right
cost to defend.
There. So there's no cost to defend. You see, we paid 1 to attack with Torrent of Tempo. That's this card right here on our side. We're paying 1 resource right here in the top right corner to attack with this for 5. They are defending with Flying Kick. Even though there's a resource cost up here, they don't have to pay that to defend because it deals with this number in the back. Like for Torrent of Tempo down here, it's the 3 down here at the bottom right with the shield next to it. Well, for Flying Kick, it's the same thing for them. It's just the card's upside down for us. It's that number right there. It defends for 3. So they're attacking for 5. We're defending for 3, or whatever side you want to be on. So let's see what goes on.
With cards. Simply put them onto the chain link you are defending.
Because remember this, guys. Remember this. Whatever you're defending with, it's free because you got to think of it like this. You only have 4 cards in your hand, right? So generally speaking, you're only going to have 4 cards in your hand, and or less. So whatever you defend with, you are not going to have that resource anymore, right? For when you attack, because you don't draw a card until your end step. Like I was saying earlier, you draw a card at the beginning of turn in most games. In this game, you draw 4 cards at the end of your turn. Okay? So, in this case, if you defend with a card, well, now you have 1 less card to use on attack. Right? So that's something you have to take into consideration and learn. I do like that to some extent, but it can feel very swingy sometimes when someone comes in for a big attack, where if you don't defend it well, you just get run over. Right? You start taking too much damage, so you just start defending. Well, guess what? they're on offense. They're playing all their cards out. They're going to draw back up to 4th in a turn. You're going to trash your whole hand trying to defend, or almost all the cards in your hand trying to defend. And now they have the momentum because you're just going to have to pass on your turn so you can draw 4 cards and not even get to attack, right? So you do have to balance that. And I don't know how I feel about that in this game. I understand the what's going on there. I understand the ideas behind it. But at the same time, it does. There have been games I've watched and games I've been in and so on and so forth, where it's like, okay, well, now that they have such and such momentum, I'm basically just always on the back foot unless they get a dead pull where I can get back into it, or if I just decide to take, a larger amount of damage so I can start swinging next turn. So it's just something to think about, okay?
All defending cards are declared simultaneously during the defending window. The exception to this are defense reaction cards.
Yeah, there are defense reaction cards that cost. Even when defending, they do have a cost associated with them.
Can only be played during the reaction window.
Yeah, and just to talk a little bit for those who know Magic, in this combat chain, I declare an attack. You declare what you want to defend with for a non-defense reaction card or a non-instant card. You defend with one of your action cards, right? And then now it's the attacker's turn to use an instant or some type of attack reaction, and then it is the defending player's turn to use a defense reaction. And it has a priority system similar to just about any card game where it's like, okay, I have priority, I'm going to pass, now it's your turn to do something, and now if they react, you now have a chance to react as well, right? You do get to go back to your chance, okay?
The reaction window.
Hopefully that was not too confusing. I know the more veteran card players knew exactly what I was talking about, even though I might have said it clumsily. But for the newer players, this is something you will learn over time. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Most games are just, I'm going to play this card, you're going to defend with that card, and there might be a combat trick, there might not be, let's keep going. That's kind of the flow.
Is where combat tricks are played. The
combat tricks,
hero can play attack reaction cards.
So see at the bottom middle here where it says generic attack reaction. So we played Tour de Tempo. They played Flying Kick as a defensive card, right, for its defensive value right here to block 5 of our damage. So they would only be taking 2 damage because it does have spillover damage in this game. You can't just block with 1 card and nothing goes through. This Flying Kick is only blocking 3 of the 5 damage coming through. But now, so an attack was declared, a defending card was declared. Now it is an attack reaction, which goes back to the turn, the active turn player here. He is going to use his target attack action card to get +1 physical. Okay, this lunging press card, right? Okay, let's see if our defender has any reaction.
And the defending hero can play defense reaction cards.
He did. So he had Springboard Somersault. If Springboard Somersault is played from Arsenal, it gains +2 defense. So he is now blocking for 2, +2, +3, so for 7, and this guy here on the bottom is only attacking for 5 +1 for 6. So the whole attack will be stopped in this specific example, okay?
Compare the power of the attack against the defense value of all cards defending this chain link. If the power of the attack is greater than the total defense value, the defending hero takes damage equal to the difference. If the defending hero is dealt damage this way, the attack is considered to have hit. If the attack has go again, the attacking hero can...
Did you see that? If Torrent of Tempo hits, it gains go again. So it would not normally have go again, but if it hits, like if the damage goes through where you deal just even 1 point of damage or more, then you get to go again for this card.
Now play another attack. The first attack of a combat...
Okay, are they saying that it went through? Okay, so maybe Springboard Somersault was not played from the Arsenal, which gives the +2. So maybe he only defended for 5. Well, now he's going to get through for 1 point of damage.
Chain is chain link 1. The second...
So that was the first chain link. What you just saw. These 4 cards up here, he's about to play the second chain link. On the combat chain, this was the first chain link. Okay? So now we're moving on to the second chain link. He's going to use his weapon.
Attack is chain link 2, and so on.
Okay, so now he's just kind of showing like how it can just keep going down and down and down. As many resources and cards you can afford, that's what you can do. Okay.
Let's look at a combat example. It's Chris's turn. He decides to attack with Edge of Autumn. Chris pitches Head Jab, gaining 3 resource points. He spends...
So he gets 3 resource points, but this ability, this attack once per turn action, only costs 1. So it doesn't just get rid of the other two. The other two are going to be floating for the rest of this turn. Okay, let's see what happens.
1 resource point to pay the cost of Edge of Autumn, and 2 resource points remain in his resource pool to use later this turn.
Exactly.
Edge of Autumn becomes Chain Link 1 on the combat chain. Sarah now decides if she wants to defend the attack from Edge of Autumn. Sarah does not defend, taking...
Okay, and that's kind of an educated play there, right? In some way, like you're making the calculations. So just so everyone knows, the lowest defense value a card can have, at least currently that I've seen, is a 2, and the highest is a 3 until you get into defense reactions, right? Special, defending reaction cards. So in other words, you have to, how do I say this? You will have to basically pick and choose your battles wisely, right? Instead of taking, why would you want to block? So this is coming in for 1 damage. He paid, this player paid 1 resource to deal 1 point of damage, not even using a card from hand other than the pitch card of Head Jab, which, has 2 more resources left. So they decided, I don't want to block with a card, overblock for 2, and lose a card on my attack, right? You have to pick and choose your battles wisely.
1 damage. At Chain Link 2, Chris plays Whirling Mist Blossom, which gets...
Whoa, okay, very cool. Whirling Mist Blossom.
+1 power from Ira's hero effect.
Ah, here we go.
Whirling Mist...
So this is Ira's hero effect that he zoomed in on. This is it right here. Just so everyone knows. Just want to make sure everybody's, still caught up with us there. And it says your second attack each turn gains +1 attack. Well, even though this is a weapon, it is still an attack. It even says it right here, right? Pay 1 to attack. So it came in for 1. Now, whatever we play next is going to be our second attack. In this case, it's Whirling Mist Blossom, a special card for Era only. And it's going to get +1. And by the way, that real quick, there are cards that are specialization cards that are only usable by that hero, right? Then there are more generic cards like a ninja weapon here, a ninja attack here. Those are usable by any ninja character. See how Era is a ninja hero? Any ninja can use that. And but then there are cards that are generic and that can be used by any class. Okay.
Blossom has a powerful effect. If it hits, and it's the second or higher chain link in a row to hit, Chris will draw 2 cards.
Very strong. Did you see that? Now, it only comes in for 2 damage, so it's going to be hard to make that hit, because even with the +1 from Era's ability, realistically, it can only come in for 3. And like I was saying earlier, 2 and 3 are the only defensive values you're going to have on a card outside of a defense reaction. Some people just call it D-react for short. Okay, so you can... theoretically, you can block this with just a single card that has a 3 defense, and you're going to be pretty safe. But remember the combat tricks that can happen on the chain link, so we got to keep that in mind.
Sarah decides to defend with Flying Kick. Now we move to the reaction window. During the reaction window, only attack reaction and defense reaction cards can be played. Chris plays Lunging Press, giving Whirling Mist Blossom +1 power. Sarah's only option now is to play a defense reaction, which in the Ira deck is Springboard Somersault.
Okay. So, like you saw, Whirling Mist Blossom was not going to be enough to go through because this was a 3 defense, right? But this Ira player really wants to have this hit, right? So they can draw 2 cards and keep their attack going, right? That's the idea, at least. Okay, well, how do we do that? Well, they blocked for 3. Now what do? We can use an attack reaction card. That's what this Lunging Press is right here. And now we're going to try to come through for an additional 1 point, which would, remember, it's 2 damage, +1 from the hero's ability, and +1 from this this attack reaction. Let's see what they have.
Is to play a defense reaction.
They had Somersault.
In the Ira deck is Springboard Somersault.
Okay, so this is a defense reaction. For it does cost 0. By the way, you have to pay the cost. This one just costs 0, so it's easy to pay, right? If Springboard Somersault is played from Arsenal, it'll gain an additional +2, but we don't even need that in this situation, right? That would just be extra. That's a good thing. But as long as we block it, they're not going to draw the 2 cards.
If Sarah does not have Springboard Somersault, she will not be able to stop Whirling Mist Blossom from dealing 1 damage, and Chris will draw 2 cards from the hit effect.
Okay, so I guess it went through, and now we can keep going with our attack.
At end of turn, the combat chain closes. Edge of Autumn returns to the weapon zone, and all...
So yeah, so the weapon will go to the weapon zone. Everything else is going to get trashed over to the graveyard, go to the discard pile, the graveyard pile. These three on the chain, even on the defender's chain, and then the 2 cards in the pitch zone here will go to the bottom of the deck. Okay.
Other cards on the combat chain are put into the graveyard.
Cool.
You will notice in the combat example, we refer to defense reactions as being played. Let's jump back to the arsenal. You may remember we mentioned cards can only be played from arsenal.
Yep.
That means you can't pitch cards from arsenal.
You saw that?
You can't defend with cards from arsenal. You can only play cards from arsenal.
So that is important. Those 2 specific things. You cannot defend with a card from your arsenal, and you cannot pitch with a card from your arsenal, unless the text on the card specifically says otherwise, right? This rule can get new players in trouble, or not in trouble, but like, get you in a spot you don't want to be in, where it's like, oh crap, I didn't know that. Yeah, make sure to pay attention to that. You cannot. I wish you could, by the way. I'm going to offer criticism at the end, but that's one of the things I wish you could do.
Paying costs as normal. As defense reaction cards are played to the chain, you can play defense reaction cards from arsenal, and in fact Springboard Somersault gives you a nice defensive buff for doing so.
Yep.
The last thing you need to know to get started playing Flesh and Blood is the first turn of the game rule. On the first turn of the game, at the end of turn, all players draw cards until the number of cards in their hand are equal to their hero's intellect.
So understand that. So in order to make it where the game is not just totally momentum driven, where it's just unfair to go first, like where you pretty much can always win going first. Because remember, you only draw cards at the end of your turn. So for the player who goes first, he's going to dump his whole hand, right, just to try to generate some advantage and put you on the back foot for the rest of the game. Well, here's the thing. If you go first, you can do that. You can dump. You might as well dump your whole hand out. You're encouraged to do that. That's how the game plays out. That's part of the gameplay, because you're going to draw 4 cards at the end of your turn. Well, on turn 1, the player who goes second will also draw 4 cards draw up to 4. Obviously, y'all know what I mean. The player going second will get to draw up to 4 cards at the beginning of the turn as well, right? Like both players will draw up, so that way you can defend properly. Right, and the game's not just totally crazy, or you guys get where I'm going with that. Okay, so the video's almost over now.
From that point onwards, you only draw cards at the end of your own turn.
Correct, yep. Okay, so hopefully that was a pretty good tutorial for y'all. Y'all kind of, I hope y'all understood what was going on there. Let me go to the board. So I want to talk about a few things. I'm going to kind of go through the video and talk about probably about 3 or 4 things. Probably more, you know me, I go on rambling. I like the board. Okay, I like the combat chain. I like what's going on here. I like the hero. I like how they have a weapon. This is an idea I've had for a while now. Like, man, you should be able to deck out your leader with this, that, and the other. I like the equipment. I like everything going on here. Being a role play, being someone who enjoys RPGs. Let me go and turn the lo-fi back on. Sorry about that, guys. Being someone who does enjoy RPGs, this game has a lot to offer me in that regard, right? Like I have the hero I've chosen, I have my weapon I've chosen, and there are multiple different things you can choose for this, even within one class, right? Like there's not just one weapon. There's not just that one weapon that this Edge of Autumn that ninjas have. There are other options as well, right? And the same thing for every class. So with that in mind, I like all that, and I like the way the combat chain works. It is very interactive. There's a lot of interactions going on, which is nice. You're not just like, okay, it's my turn, you don't get to do anything, and then, okay, now it's your turn, I don't get to do anything. It is very interactive in that sense. There's a few things I wish were... so back to this Edge of Autumn example, one thing that felt a little bit lackluster to me, and I understand it's built from a design, like, you know, they're trying to design around balance, right? I fully 100% understand that. That's not lost on me. But some things feel underwhelming, like Edge of Autumn. You are paying 1 to attack for 1, right? That feels a little underwhelming to me. It's like, you know, I'm a ninja, and this is my katana, right? Or, you know, my sword, whatever. You know, I don't know all the technical names for it. Don't roast me in the comment section below on that, please. But I want my Edge of Autumn to really be formidable, right? Like, I want my Edge of Autumn to just be a threat. Like, yes, it's a threat in the sense that it makes your next attack gain +1. I just wish it did more damage. And I feel like that with most weapons in this game. Now, there's a few that do not have that problem. Anyone who plays the game currently, if you've ever heard of this card called Rosetta Thorn, that's a special weapon in the game that is very strong. And that's kind of, but here's the thing. I think that card is kind of how all weapons should be, or in that general balance section, where so just for those who don't know, that card has a once per turn action to attack to deal 2 physical damage, and then if you meet a certain requirement, it'll deal 2 additional damage as arcane, which I don't want to go into all the details, but the idea is it basically does 4 damage for 1, right? Yes, you do have to meet certain criteria, but but at the very minimum, you're paying 1 to swing for 2, but it doesn't have go again. See, like Edge of Autumn here has go again. And I don't see that as balanced. I don't see this card as being balanced with the card I was just talking about called Rosetta Thorn, because I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it. I wish the weapons in this game and the armor were a little more impactful. We didn't go over the armor, unfortunately, the head, chest, arms, and legs. But a lot of the pieces you can only defend with just one time, and then they break. Right? They'll defend for 1, right, and then the armor just breaks. Some don't. Some armor sticks around, but you get my point. And I don't really like that aspect of it. I wish there was a little more to it than that. I'm not saying I have the answer for any of these problems I'm saying. Okay, guys? I'm not saying that, oh, yeah, if they would just do this and fix it. I don't know the answer. I'm just giving, like, constructive criticism, critique, whatever. Just my personal preference on how I wish things were. Another thing, this is just hero specific. But some hero abilities seem pretty lackluster compared to others. But that, again, that's just very specific to the hero and maybe to play style. Okay, what else? The Arsenal, I do want to talk about that a little bit. I wish the Arsenal functioned as your 5th card, right? Because that's, like I was saying earlier, it kind of does function as your 5th card, but not entirely. Because you cannot use it to pitch cards, and you cannot use it to defend with, unless it's a defensive reaction that you can play from your Arsenal. So that is something I wish they gave more leniency to. That's just a little nitpick type thing. What else? I don't have a lot more to say about it. Let me at least talk about the quality. Let me turn this on mute while this is going through. The quality of this tutorial was excellent, and I feel like it did a very good job of explaining the game. Now, I did listen to this tutorial a while back, and when I heard it the first time, I still had a lot of questions. I did actually still have a lot of questions, but it definitely pointed me in the right direction and helped explain things to me that, were not obvious in my opinion, right? So not as intuitive, right? But yeah, it did a good job explaining it, and I did really like the video. The production quality was excellent. Just whoever watched my Grand Archive video, same thing with that one, where it's just very well presented. Very good voice actor they chose, I don't know if they're a voice actor, obviously, but a very soothing voice, very calm, not all crazy and erratic or rushing, and he has, his tone is down where it's just very understandable, very easy to listen to. What else? The combat chain is interesting, like I said. I like the weapons. I talked about all that. The hero is interesting. That allows for like a big future market of just being able to go in any direction, right? That's one of the coolest parts that they have in this game, in my opinion, is like, okay, you like paladins? Okay, well we'll make a paladin hero, right? Like, okay, people want a ninja hero? Okay, we'll make a ninja hero. Okay, people want a necromancer hero. We'll make a necromancer hero, which I don't think they have a necromancer hero yet, but maybe that's the future for them, right? Now, they do have, all kinds of stuff from, like, basically summoners is what I'd consider. There's a hero called Dromai. She's like a summoner, which is really cool, where you're summoning allies. So let me pause right here. So you see on this combat chain where it's a bunch of attacks going in, and then, like, remember what I said, after these cards are used, they go to the trash. They go to the graveyard, the discard pile, whatever you want to call it. Well, with allies, those don't go anywhere at the end of the turn or after they attack. They're kind of sitting on board with you. You're like a summoner, right? Same thing, same idea with Prism. And currently, at the time of recording this, there is a new hero. Well, it's like a new hero that was an older hero that's already been retired, named Prism, that can create angels that stick around on the board. And let me pause right here. That's going back to what we talked about before with the living legend idea. If there's a hero that just everyone loved, well, they're going to reprint the hero and make a different version of her. So now you can play a different version of her that's maybe more balanced or a little bit buffed or whatever. Which also allows them over time, say a certain hero didn't work out, say a hero's just awful. Well, once that gets legend ruled, they'll just be done with it. They'll just move on from that card, you know. So just stuff like that. I think that provides a very bright future for the game. Okay. As far as this game goes, overall, I do think it's a very fun game. There's a few things that do get under my skin a little bit. I don't like. Well, I think they just zoomed in on that, but I don't like that you're stuck to 4 cards. I know this would totally change the entire feel of the game, but I actually wish you drew 5 cards a turn. Like, just get rid of Arsenal entirely and just do 5. Or if you're going to do the Arsenal, that's fine. Have that be like your 6th card. And I know, guys, for the players down, like, that'd be broken. I get it. I'm just saying, I wish they had balanced it around that number instead. Like, I wish the number they balanced around was 5 cards in hand versus 4. Because it just kind of... I don't know how to explain this. You have to play the game to see what I'm talking about. It makes certain pulls feel a little rough. But again, maybe making a better deck can fix that. And playing the game differently, getting more experience fixes that. You guys get what I'm saying. It's just something... I just don't like having such a small hand. Coming from a card game like One Piece, coming from a card game like Magic the Gathering, I'm used to having like 5 cards in hand at all time, you know, or more. And that's not a make or break thing for me. It's just a preference. So yeah. Guys, if you have any questions in the comment section below, please ask away. If I can't answer, I'll find a way to, you know, I'll find the answer for you if I can. Tell me what y'all think about this game. What do you guys think about the game? Do you like Flesh and Blood? Have you played it? Are you interested in trying it? And all that kind of stuff, right? Like, what do you guys think? I really enjoyed making this video. This was a lot of fun to make. I love these kinds of videos where we talk about tutorials. This tutorial was top tier. This was an excellent, very well made tutorial. And I hope going forward, all of them are at least around this level, you know, because that makes my life a lot easier with these high quality tutorials. So, okay, I'm not going to ramble on for too much longer, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed. And please like and subscribe. And if you have anything you want to share in the comment section, please don't be shy. Share away. All right, guys. Till next time. Peace.